All right, so today I wanted to talk about this tweet from Patrick Moore saying people have got to get it that hydrogen is not an energy source. There are no hydrogen mines. Hydrogen must be generated from water or fossil fuels using a lot of energy in the process, and then it is very difficult to contain, transmit, and combust. And this is another one of the latest like green things is like using hydrogen as energy. Um, but the main point here, I think, is well, I mean, the point he brings up would be the main point, but I think the big picture point here is very simple in that, and it's one of the many lies of the climate change, the thing that a lot of the everyday people that believe in the whole green energy scam that they don't understand, and the thing that the people at the top don't want you to know. And it's not like it's a secret or anything either. It's not like it's some grand conspiracy. They're just relying on the ignorance of the average person. But the thing I'm getting at here is it's a very simple concept. I brought it up a lot before, but that's um, solar panels and wind turbines and batteries. They don't just magically appear out of nowhere. Like the climate change crowd, seems to have this idea that like aliens just drop off massive amounts of solar panels and wind turbines and batteries just on a regular basis, and they're just good to go. But that's not how it works. Right? the the process for building a solar panel requires a lot of fossil fuels. Not to mention too, it requires a similar mining process, that being the process of mining for oil and gas, right? Um, and again, when it goes to wind turbines, well, they have their own issues in that. Well, number one, they need to be trucked in there, right, on big, massive trucks that are obviously using diesel, right? Not to mention too, you're going to need probably helicopters to get them set up. In other words, they require a lot of energy, that being fossil fuels, to put them in. Not to mention, too, we're seeing the issues in Texas right now to where they're all froze up and there's rolling blackouts, right? And again, the other big problem too is that they don't last forever. This is another big myth people seem to have is that, oh, you put them in and you're good to go forever, but that's not the way they work. Solar panels and wind turbines, you're looking at maybe 10, 20 years tops, right? So, and the other big problem with that too is that the wind turbines, and I would maybe the solar panels as well, I'm not 100% sure, but the wind turbines can't be recycled, meaning those things are piling up in landfills, right? So at the end of the day, the point remains that the whole green energy thing that these people are trying to preach, it's not actually nearly as green as what people would have you think. But again, the thing that they would come up with is oh, we're going to be able to have green ways of getting to it. But again, that may be all hunky dory, which again I disagree with. I think we're a long ways away from that. But at least be honest with people, right? And that we're being completely dishonest with people. And the other thing too that people don't seem to realize too is that they pretend like green energy is every bit as good as natural gas, as whatever, right? But that's not the case, right? And again, Texas is learning that the hard way. California routinely learns that the hard way. I guess the difference being in that, California, it's usually when it's like, 40 degrees outside. It's one thing to be, a little hot, not have AC, but it's a completely different thing to not have heat when it's, below freezing temperatures, right? Especially when Alberta, for example, again, if the NDP had their way, we would be completely, away from fossil fuels, or at least a lot more than we currently are. And yeah, just think of how great it will be. It'll be minus 40 and it won't be sunny. Maybe it won't be very windy. Oh, boom, rolling blackout. Oh, that's going to be great. People are going to freeze to death. Um, People's pipes are going to freeze up. People's sewers are going to back up. It's going to be complete, just complete craziness, right? And again, there may be solutions to these kind of things, but the way we stand right now, there isn't. Right? The technology is still nowhere near being comparable. And this is the thing I brought up for the longest time is that if wind and solar can get to the point to where it's every bit as competitive and as good as natural gas, as oil, as gas, as any of that kind of stuff, without being subsidized, right? I would go for it, right? I would go for it. If an electric car can be every bit as good as a gas powered car, then okay, right? But again, the problem is that's not the case, right? That's really not the case. And for many reasons, right? For many reasons, but um, I think that the big problem again with the electric car and stuff like that is that, and the big thing that makes it hard to read the industry too is that the whole green industry is based off this, I would say, lie that oil and gas is destroying the world, so we have to go towards, electric cars and wind and solar and all this stuff. But the problem is that's not the case, right? In that fossil fuels are not destroying the planet, right? It's not the case. Like it's the craziest thing that these climate alarmists have been making these doomsday predictions going back for 40 years, right? 40 years since like 1980, they've been making these doomsday predictions, and next to none of them have came true. But yet the climate change, the idea of climate change seems to be more people are convinced of it than ever, right? It's very funny to think of. Um, but again, at the end of the day, I mean, Patrick Moore is a very good follow. If you don't follow him, he's a very brilliant guy, and he's one of the few people in the industry that isn't insane, it seems. So again, if you don't follow him, make sure you follow him because again, he's incredibly insightful. But um, again, the point remains that these quote unquote green technologies are not green, right? They're not green. Again, I don't understand how people can just completely ignore this fact, right? It's also very funny to see. I see pictures all the time of these green, electric car charging stations, and it's very funny that um, most of them have literal diesel generating like backup systems, right? Or you see these green cars that run out of power and you know a diesel or a gas powered car has to come and bail them out, right? It's very funny to see. So it's like I said, if we can get to the point to where electric cars are every bit as effective, and I'm saying without the subsidies, right? Because this is one of the other many problems with wind and solar. The lefties point out is that, oh, it is comparable or whatever, which it isn't. But even if you want to say it is, the wind and solar industry is heavily subsidized, right? And they would say the same about the oil and gas industry, saying, oh, Kenny gave them all this money, but what they don't tell you still is that even though the oil and gas industry is subsidized to some degree, the wind and solar industry is subsidized way more, like way more. And the other thing they don't tell you too is that under the Obama administration, like 90% of wind and solar companies went out of business even though they were heavily subsidized. So this is the thing people just don't really seem to understand is that if we ever get to the point to where electric cars are every bit as effective as gas powered cars and we can figure out all the existing problems with them, I would probably be open to them. But until that happens, it's complete insanity to suggest we should go towards them, right? So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. If you want to donate, you could do that as well. Again, I would very much appreciate whatever support I can get. But like I said, at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.